The Amazon rainforest is the stage for some of the greatest mysteries on our planet, an endless well of indigenous legends describing creatures that are gigantic, mystical, and strangely beautiful. This same place is also the cradle of an ancient nature that evolved into an ecosystem so vast and layered it defies simple description. But inside all that overwhelming beauty, one force rules every single day without exception: death. In the wild, death is a daily visitor, one that takes both predator and prey without warning. What nobody expected was for death to arrive in the Amazon basin, wrapped in a mystery, unsettling enough to dethrone the most lethal predator in the entire ecosystem. This is what a team of field ecologists stumbled onto. Stretched across the dry leaf litter lay a fallen deity, a giant weighing nearly 130 kilograms, a killing machine sculpted over millions of years of evolution to rule absolutely over these jungles. The painted cat, the jaguar, the ghost of the Americas, a creature whose bite is strong enough to punch through a caiman's skull like it was made of paper. She was dead. But the crime scene told a story that didn't match the usual script. The king's body carried no bullet wounds, no surgical cuts left by poachers chasing a pelt. What it had instead were deep punctures, tears that reached vital organs, and raw, brutal force. And just a few meters away, the body of her killer was still cooling in the leaf litter beside her. It wasn't another big cat, it wasn't a pack of wild dogs, it wasn't a giant anaconda. It was a creature most people only picture as a harmless cartoon character. Two bodies, one dethroned apex predator, and one impossible monster standing beside it. Whatever happened in that clearing wasn't a fight. It was mutually assured destruction. Welcome back. Today we're digging into one of the boldest, strangest cases nature has ever handed us. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and before we get into the evidence, tell me in the comments, which Amazonian animal do you think could actually take down a jaguar? Now let's get into it. Before we start dissecting the bodies and rebuilding this crime scene, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. A jaguar isn't just a big cat. It's the undisputed apex of its food chain. A camouflaged battle tank capable of dragging a 300-kilogram cow using nothing but the strength of its neck. So when the ecologists monitoring the local wildlife stumbled onto this scene, their first reaction was confusion. Biological logic said that nothing in that ecosystem, nothing, should have had the nerve to challenge an adult jaguar at the peak of its strength. The first theory, almost reflexive, pointed at the puma, also known as the mountain lion, the second largest cat on the continent. Fast, well camouflaged, and vicious in its attacks. Maybe both cats were fighting over the same kill, and the confrontation simply went badly for one of them. But jungle forensics don't lie. When the specialists examined both carcasses, they noticed something unsettling. Puma claw marks look like thin blades, built for gripping and holding on. What was on the jaguar's body were wider punctures, wounds that looked more like deep, penetrating blows. The flesh had been torn with a pulling force no cat on the continent actually possesses. And the direction of the wounds told an even stranger story. The jaguar wasn't attacked from behind, she was attacked head-on. She looked her killer in the eyes as she died. A puma would have gone for the back of the neck, or dropped in from above. Amazonian pumas are also smaller and lighter than their Patagonian cousins, which makes them even less likely to challenge a jaguar in its prime. And here's the part that got under everyone's skin. Once researchers started digging through old field notes, similar cases started surfacing. Rare, yes, but not unique. So who's the killer? The answer was lying just 2 meters away. The giant anteater. I already know what you're thinking. The anteater. The toothless goofball with the long snout. And that exact assumption, that underestimation, is what makes the truth so terrifying. The giant anteater might be evolution's greatest visual con job. It looks gentle, it shuffles along with that comical snout and a tail that looks like an oversized feather duster. But underneath that shaggy coat is a body built for war. Let's break down the anatomy of this unlikely serial killer. It can grow past 2 meters long. The biggest individuals of this species can weigh over 50 kilograms of dense, functional muscle. But the real secret isn't the size, it's the hands. The giant anteater has no teeth because it doesn't need to bite anything to kill it. Evolution turned its front legs into tools of mass destruction. It carries what are basically keratin sabers, claws that can reach 10 centimeters long. Stop and look at your own hand for a second. Now imagine claws that thick, that curved, sharp enough to cut and strong enough to demolish concrete. Their primary job is ripping apart termite mounds, and if you've never touched one of those mounds, they're basically reinforced concrete. They have to survive tropical storms intact. So we're talking about an animal with enough raw arm strength to crack dry cement in a single strike. Now imagine what that does to a predator's ribcage. It doesn't cut, it goes straight through. The anteater is prey, but cornered in the dark of the jungle, prey can explode into something else entirely. Here's how the scene likely played out. The jaguar, driven by hunger and a predator's natural arrogance, picks up the anteater's scent. To her, this isn't a threat. It's an easy meal, slow, defenseless protein. She closes in, ready to pounce, expecting the usual response, her prey running for its life. That's the standard animal instinct, flee from death. But the giant anteater doesn't run. It physically can't move that fast, and on some level, it knows it. So when a giant anteater realizes it's cornered, something chilling happens. It stops. It turns slowly to face its attacker. And then it stands up, rising onto its hind legs, using its thick, muscular tail as a tripod for balance, arms spread wide to make itself look as large as possible, hoping the threat backs off before things escalate. To an unsuspecting human, that pose might look like an invitation for a hug. But in the universal language of animal violence, that's a combat stance. It's saying, "Look how big I am, walk away, or come closer and meet my claws." At that point, most jaguars back off, and plenty do. There are documented cases of experienced jaguars sizing up that stance and simply turning around. The risk isn't worth the reward, but hunger is a terrible advisor. Or maybe the real culprit here is youth. A young jaguar, inexperienced, full of testosterone and overconfidence, sees nothing but a slow animal standing on two legs with an exposed chest. She sees an opening, and she jumps. Jumps straight into her own ending, straight into an unlikely executioner. The jaguar launches her full 80 to 90 kilograms through the air, aiming for the anteater's throat. But the anteater doesn't retreat. It closes its arms. What people casually call the anteater's hug isn't affection. It's a hydraulic press lined with knives. Those claws, guided by an ancient defensive reflex, hunt for soft tissue. They ignore the jaguar's tough hide and drive straight into the muscle underneath, tearing arteries, puncturing lungs, and in the most extreme cases, reaching the heart. Even without hitting anything vital, the wounds alone are often enough to cause fatal blood loss or to turn septic and kill within days. Back at the scene, in the middle of that fatal embrace, the jaguar bites down to defend herself, crushing the anteater's shoulder or skull in her jaws. And even then, the anteater doesn't let go. That's the single most terrifying part of this whole defense mechanism. Even mortally wounded, the muscle spasm in an anteater's forearms keeps those claws locked in place inside its attacker. It's a biological trap with one simple rule. If I go down, you're going down with me. What follows is minutes of brutal struggle, both animals fighting to be the one that survives. Eventually, the adrenaline runs out. Blood loss takes its toll. The movements slow down. The roar fades into something closer to a sigh. And there, in the dark of the jungle, the supreme predator and the peaceful herbivore go down together, locked in a single, bloody knot that not even death manages to pull apart right away. Now, it's important to be honest here. The jaguar wins most of the time. Studies out of the Serra da Botoquena region and the Pantanal wetlands in Brazil, where jaguars and giant anteaters regularly share territory, show that anteaters actually make up a significant chunk of jaguar diets. During certain seasons, they can account for up to 75% of the biomass a jaguar consumes. That means in the overwhelming majority of encounters, the jaguar is an efficient, ruthless killer, striking from behind, snapping the spine, or crushing the skull before the anteater ever gets the chance to stand up. A cold, one-sided execution with no real chance of defense. But the cases we're talking about today, the double bodies, the mutual kills, those are the statistical outliers. The glitches in the system. Experienced jaguars usually know better and walk away. It's the young, reckless ones that gamble and lose. And that brings us to an uncomfortable truth about nature itself. We like sorting animals into clean little boxes. This one's the predator. Strong, dangerous, bad. This one's the prey. Weak, gentle, good. But the jungle doesn't care about our tidy moral categories. The giant anteater is living proof that evolution doesn't just reward the best attackers. It rewards whatever survives, by whatever means necessary. This is an animal with poor eyesight, weak hearing by any human standard, and yet it carries, in its own front legs, the power to humble the king of the Amazon. And if you think the giant anteater is the only weakling nature has been quietly lying to us about, you have no idea what's coming next. The animal kingdom is full of silent killers, invisible poisons, and living traps, all waiting patiently for their opponent's one mistake. All it takes is a single crack, one fleeting opportunity, and the entire chessboard flips. Prey becomes executioner in an instant. Make no mistake, in nature, peace is never permanent. It's just the pause between two massacres. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new here, and let me know in the comments what you thought of this one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.